Live. Hello, ladies.
Hello, hello. Good morning.
Good morning to all. We thought Fridays was a really fun time to get together and talk about a topic every week. And as you know, we have been recording these talks and they are being broadcasted to the Meant for More podcast. So if you miss them here, you can always catch the audio the following week or revisit this page and watch the video because it's always fun to see our faces, right? So today, Kristin and I decided we're going to talk about energy. I've been talking about energy a lot this week, and we've had lots of conversations around this idea of energy and how we're all energetic beings, right? And we're all responding to one another's energy on a daily basis, whether we recognize it or not. So I kind of wanted to touch on some things around energy, and these are completely unscripted. So you guys know we are not following any kind of script. We're just kind of following the energy, right, Kristin? We're like, where's the energy going to
Absolutely.
take us?
Yes, yes.
So my initial thought is I want to start around this idea that I control my own energy. And a lot of people have a really hard time even grasping this concept because we are so reactive by nature. And we're always thinking about how we need to respond to other people's energy. And we're not really setting intentions for how we want to show up for people. And I know this is true for me in my life with various people in my life in particular, where I feel I get either on defense or I have to kind of plan how I'm going to respond to them. Does anyone else have people like this in their life where it's like you feel tense or anxious knowing you're going to either have an interaction or a conversation with them? Because usually because they're what I like to call like an energy vampire.
A
They like to
drain.
steal all the energy from you. And some people are really good about creating boundaries around these types of people. Others are not. I know so many women in particular that continue to put up with people in their life that drain their energy. How do you feel about
Oh,
that, Kristin?
I say that was me. I am such a social being as far as like I'm an introvert, but when I'm around people, I want everyone to be happy and feel good, and like I want to like help everyone to connect. I just love that kind of thing. But because of being that kind of a person, I have always had issues with um, allowing others to dictate how this happens. And so often I have found myself very, I'm just too intuitive sometimes. And so then someone, if they come in and they're angry or they're upset, instantly I feel like I have to change my energy. I either have to like bring myself down if I'm feeling up and happy because, oh, they're not happy. I don't want to
Mhm.
discourage them, or I need to lift them back up or be what they need me to be. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that managing the energy, or like you're saying, we all have people in our lives where, when you see their name come up, you're like, oh, I just,
Those phone calls where you're like, oh,
I
no.
just don't think I can handle that right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, we don't even think about it sometimes, but it's such an unconscious reaction. Our body reacts. And then we get into I don't know about you, but throughout my life, it's, well, I should answer that call. Well, what if they need, is it, and not thinking about, well, what do I need right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can talk to them later when I can get my energy and be in that space where I can help them or whatever, or decide maybe just not to ever have it,
Yeah.
like that's okay too. And we never give ourselves permission, I think, to sit back and choose and decide how we want to be and who we want to be with and how we want to respond and set those boundaries. So important.
Yeah. I think saying permission is kind of key there. Like we really don't give ourselves permission. We continue to kind of neglect the way we're feeling and feel like we need to cater to everyone else or I need to shift my energy for them. Um,
Yes.
I've had perpetual energy vampires in my life that I would put up for years that would always be robbing me of my energy. And it's like we kind of have a sense this is going on, right? But we
Mhm.
still don't do anything about it. Not until we start doing some of this work we talk about within this group. It's not until you start to really look at yourself and be like, how am I actually showing up? Or what do I need right now? And sometimes that is drawing a hard line, right? Being like, I just cannot do this right now,
Mhm.
and setting that boundary. And that's so difficult for so many of us, especially when it's family. Okay, everyone know about like setting boundaries with family. That can be like the hardest one, especially
Oh,
if you've
yes.
set an expectation that you're going to show up or be available. So it can feel like really difficult to set boundaries with the family. But I know people that have done it, and it's been so powerful for them. And it doesn't have to be a forever thing, too. I think that's the other thing we get caught up in. If I set a boundary and I say I'm not going to talk to this person right now, does that mean I'm never going to talk to them ever again?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. I mean, you decide what you need ultimately. Maybe you have some work you need to do on your own energy before you can decide to let certain people back into your life. Or maybe you need to have a difficult conversation that you haven't been ready to have. That's the
Yes.
that's the other side of it. And if you're not doing the work on yourself, you're definitely not going to have those conversations. Those are going to feel like gross. You're like, I don't
Yes.
want to have this conversation.
Exactly. And we all fear what's on the other side. We get comfortable, or like you said, it's an expectation that we've set. We've allowed people to deal with us, or we've dealt with them in a certain way. And then when you finally get to the place where you stop yourself and ask why am I putting up with that, or why am I allowing that, or what is it in me that's attracting that, what am I,
Yeah.
when you start really questioning what's going on, then you need to have a conversation, but yet you worry what that's going to mean. And of course,
Yeah.
we always have all the answers, what we answers what we think is going to
We want the
happen.
answers at least.
Yes, it's like, well, if I say this, I want to know how they're going to react. And that's the thing, you can't control other people's reaction. All you can do is control you. And so make sure you're in that space and have the conversation. And I know you and I have had discussions about this before, is that it's always surprising what's on the other side. Sometimes,
Yeah.
for the positive and sometimes for the negative, but ultimately, whichever way it goes, it's always 100% better, because then it's authentic, it's what you want, it's intentional. And it's always, I have found it's always good, whether positive or negative. It has moved the relationship to where it needs to be.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a hard reality to face too, is that sometimes some relationships aren't repairable. Like
Mhm,
there's too much
mhm.
trauma or damage, or maybe you were in a different place when that relationship started and you've become
Exactly.
a different person. And maybe they've become a different person. And like energetically,
Mhm.
it's no longer a match, right?
Exactly.
These are
Exactly.
thoughts, I've had over the years with friends, spouses, or say a spouse. I mean, these are all the things we consider as we start to dig in and do this work. Like, how have I been showing up energetically? Is that just my default programming that I do that or show up that way? And what can I start to do to actually manage my own emotions? And I know manage sounds like a little bit almost clinical, but we have to find ways to show up the way we want to and not be held hostage by how other people are basically coming at us day in and day out, because it can get really exhausting. I've had so many conversations with my husband around like, it's exhausting for me to try and manage your energy when you're
Mm.
down. We can only do it for so long. And this could be anyone in anyone's life, if you're listening, that's perpetually kind of a drain on your energy or is always trying to bring you down. You know that we all know that saying, misery loves company. There's a reason it exists. It's true. Like people have a really hard time when they're miserable being around people who are happy for whatever reason. And it's like, I will do everything I can to try and bring you down to my level. But we don't have to
Yeah.
do that. That is
No.
not our job. It is not our job to manage other people's emotions. So give yourself permission to let yourself off the hook.
Yes.
And that is going to sound really hard to do in the beginning if you've constantly been catering to other people's emotions. But we're here to tell you it's possible. you can get to that point. So let's talk a little bit, Kristin, about how do you manage your own energy? What are some things you could tell these ladies as far as what's working for you, as far as showing up energetically the way you want to?
I would say for me, the biggest piece was I was not allowing myself to get enough sleep. Sleep is, it's health benefits on across the board, but for me, sleep is so key. And when I am low on the sleep, gives me the energy to be able to then to be able to think how I want to be, how I want to show up, be intentional about every area of my life. Whereas when I don't get enough sleep, then you go back into reactive mode and I'm just reacting to whatever is happening, and the frustration comes out, and then my energy is down, so then I project that on other people, and it's a hot mess and it's not pretty. So
No,
i've
it's not.
become I've become very um intentional about my sleep. It's like, okay,
Okay.
gotta go, if because I know that I have to have my 8 hours at least, or I'm not the person I want to be. So that's the bit for me. That was the
Okay.
beginning, is
Sleep.
like just making myself get the amount of sleep I needed. Well, figuring out the amount of sleep I needed, and then getting the amount of sleep I needed. So sleep was huge, and then just setting my morning where it's not where as soon as my eyes open, the list of things and just jumping out of bed and going, because that was
Oh,
also
how many people do that? It's like you get on your
yes,
phone immediately, or you're
yeah,
checking
yeah,
email, you're doing all the things, like you're already wiring your brain for stress, like right when you get up.
before you even get out of bed. Exactly. And so that was another piece that was missing. And again, that goes back to setting up. Honestly, to have a great day and to have the energy that you want, you need to start the day before. So it's like the night before, setting the intentions of what I wanted to do, and it helps you stay calm. It
Mhm.
helps you to in the morning to like, okay, I know my top three things. I know what I need to do. Um, and then I know that you have a good morning routine, and
Mhm.
and I know a lot of people talk about morning routine, and it doesn't have to be restrictive, but I do think that you need to like have certain things that you start your day, and start your day for you. So whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation, whether it's a scripture reading or prayer, um, just have things that you do for you. Have that first cup of coffee in quiet, and start your day that way. And for me, that helps my energy be sustained throughout the day.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
that's one or two, I guess.
that's two. I mean, yeah, and those are big things and like things that are overlooked a lot of the time, I think. We all know we need to sleep more than we are. Like, I bet every woman listening to this right now is like, yeah, I could probably sleep more than I do. And it's not even really about the number of hours either for some of us, because
Yeah,
that's where our mind goes instinctually. Like, I need more hours of sleep. I would say, first, how is your quality of sleep?
quality.
Because you could go to bed and give yourself an 8 or 9 hour window of sleep, but if you're only sleeping like 6 of those hours, or you're getting up multiple times through the night, like there's something going on. You can't shut your brain off. That's one I hear a lot too. Like once the brain starts going, the sleep
That's it.
stops,
Yes,
and you wake up
exactly.
and you just feel drained and like not refreshed or recharged. All the feelings you want to have when you wake up from sleep. So it's kind of looking at, okay, even the wind down routine, which is something
Yes.
I was going to kind of talk about a little bit, because I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, I think it's really important to have a morning routine. I think that sets you up for the day beautifully. But like you said too, what you do the day before or the night before also is setting you up for the next day and how your energy is going to be. So I've asked a lot of women over the years, like, what are you doing to kind of wind yourself down at the end of the day?
Hmm.
Because I feel like we like work up to this big climax at the end of the day. We've used all of our energy. We're usually really spent, especially us moms. Like we're working, we've got kids in the house, our husbands, our spouses are trying to get time with us, and it's all just a lot. So by the time we get to the end of the day, we don't really spend any time for ourselves.
No, we rush, like you said, we do all the things, and it's always like trying to fit in last few things, and so
Mhm.
you're rushing right up until you're so exhausted that you drop into bed. Like
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
like,
that is.
I don't even have time to try and wind down. But it's,
Mhm.
again, what we've been talking about, this idea of intentionality and bringing a little bit more intention to your morning and your evening. What can
Mhm.
you do to put yourself in a state of calm and surrender and
Oh,
peace, like
yes,
the things you want before you go to bed? So I would encourage people, like, look at what you're doing in the evening. Are you spending a
definitely.
lot of time on your screen? Is your phone right next to your bed? I mean, we all know these things. We've heard these things. So
Over and over
in
and over.
theory, they sound really easy. Like, yeah, I'll just turn off
Yeah.
my phone an hour
Oh,
before
yeah.
bed, but we still don't do it for whatever reason. I said we, and it goes back to this default programming we all have. This is what we do. And we have to cultivate the awareness of our pattern if we want to shift it and really become aware when we're defaulting, and then slowly try and break the habit. So it's like, I always like to tell people to kind of baby step it and kind of
Definitely.
work backwards a little bit. Like, what
Yeah.
we all have an ideal. I feel like we all have this
Yeah.
ideal of what we want our morning, our evening
Yes, it's
might be.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Just to
even our
see the
day.
sea.
Like,
Yeah.
but it seems so far from our reality and almost impossible, right? Like, there's no way I'm going to get to that perfect day or perfect morning, evening, whatever I'm trying to create. It's all too much. So, how do you start smaller and give yourself some compassion and grace as you're trying to figure out a new way of being, essentially? Because
I
you're in
definitely think it's
default.
picking one thing. Just
Mhm.
start there. Do that for several days, weeks if you have to, just to try to shift that.
Yeah, I think that's key. Pick one thing.
Definitely.
Pick one thing. And maybe it's just, don't forget the evening routine. If you haven't even started the morning, like, pick one of those things and pick one thing in the morning that you're going to do that's going to help protect your energy or set you up for the day. Because I know Kristen talked a little about her morning routine. We have, I'd say, somewhat similar morning routines, a little bit different. I have a very protected and ritualistic morning routine. And it takes practice to get to that point, and really determination too, as well, because life happens and there's some days where things get in the way, and you start having to tweak your routine a little bit here and there. But I think if you show up consistently enough, it gets easier to be like, nope, I kind of have a boundary around my morning time.
Mhm.
And even if I don't do things at the exact same time every day, there's certain events or activities I want to occur that will make my day feel like well set up, complete. So for me, that intention setting, like we've been talking about, how do you want to show up for the day? And both Kristen and I follow Brendan Burchard, and I think we both like pieces of what he has to offer. He
Mhm.
works for some people and not for others, because he's very much about high achievers and all these things you can do to better optimize your day and get more done. But there's one piece of his morning ritual that I've adopted that I find very, very useful. And it's the question around kind of preparing for the day, preparing for the stress of the day, because we know we're going to encounter something in our day that's stressful.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
can you take a moment before your day even starts to identify what that might be? What could happen today that could throw me off, could be really stressful? And how do I want to respond to that if that happens? So, you're already putting yourself there, like, okay, think through your day. This shouldn't take very long either. Like, literally just go with your instinct. Like, what's on the schedule today? What might trip me up? How would my best self show up for that?
Respond. Yes, exactly.
And it's amazing, since I've started doing that, how I can really get ahead of it. And then I'll look back at the end of the day and be like, that really didn't bother me. That did happen
Hmm.
and that didn't bother me. Like, I responded well.
I think
So,
what you said is key is I think if we it's a great practice to visualize in the morning before your day begins, before all the things crash in,
mhm,
who do I want to be today? You know, it's that how do I want to show up? What would my best self? I love that. You know, what would my best self do today in any given situation? Given the fact that we are all human and life happens, how do I want to be today? How do I want to respond to whatever comes up?
yeah,
That's very good.
yeah,
And especially if you know there's something that could easily trip you up. There's something that is occurring that often has in the past, and how do I want to respond differently?
yeah,
Because we always, you know, we've talked about this before with the brain. It's like you always go back to your wiring, you go back to what you've always done if you're not aware and intentional.
mhm, yeah. And I think you're touching on a theme that's going to be quite universal within this community is coming back to our consciousness, our awareness, our presence.
Awareness.
Like these terms are
Mhm.
kind of interchangeable because we live in autopilot most of the time. Our brain actually prefers to be in autopilot because it doesn't have to work so hard.
It's comfortable. It's
It's
comfortable.
comfortable. Yeah, and it's like consider where you're kind of settling for comfort over like what you actually want
Yes.
because that's a lot of it too. Like it's hard to think about making big changes. And I hear so many women use the word transformation or radical
Mm,
transformation. These are the things we want out of our lives because we're in this place where we feel so unfulfilled or stuck. So it feels like something radical needs to happen, right? But what's the reality? Does I
one
mean,
small change, you know, sometimes that small change, the little tiny things that then become big things,
mhm.
as you're consistent with them, they compound.
Yeah, and we're always gonna give you that little dose of reality too, like, sorry if you think you could just, like, flip a switch and wake up tomorrow and have this radical transformation. We wish we could create a pill and sell it to you and be like, "Take this, wake up, your life will be radically different."
You're
We'd all be millionaires, probably billionaires, but that's just, like,
yeah.
not the way it works. It's a process. And some people aren't willing to go through the process. And that's where you have to determine for yourself. Are you content to stay comfortably uncomfortable? Or are you ready to start shaking up your life in a good way? I mean, there will be bad moments. I'm not gonna lie. Kristen wouldn't lie either. There's
No,
there's going
no.
to be like moments of reckoning. You're gonna be like, oh, and it's crazy, like so we're at a certain point in our journey. We can look back on those low points and be like, they needed to happen. They needed to happen to get to this point where we are able to help other women do this. And we get to help you go through those moments because a lot of us just went through it alone. We're just like,
Yes,
I just
yes.
decided I'm going to do it because I felt compelled enough on my own and like things
Mhm.
were feeling broken enough for me where they needed to be fixed. But that's the beauty of what we're trying to create here too, is like you don't have to do it alone. It's hard to even know where to start, but
When
we
you're
like
exhausted and
yeah.
have no energy, you can't think. You can't.
Well, and it's like when you're starting, you're gonna get in your way so much more of the time because it's new. It's like learning to ride a bike, right? Or learning to do anything new. You're gonna fall down. And it's nice if someone's kind of there to help pick you up and be like, no, it's okay. This is like part of the
This
process.
is normal. This is how it works. Yes.
This is exactly where you need to be right now. Trust me,
Mhm.
like it's better on the other side, but you almost, I was telling my husband last night, it's almost like getting a deep tissue massage. Like, you know, it's really good for you, but you know that like that first day or two after, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm so sore. That's kind of what it's like. And then eventually, you feel good, but it's gonna take time and you have to stick to it. And that's the hard part if you're trying to do it alone.
Yes.
Not having that
Yes.
support to be like, no, stick to it. Or like, no, get out of your own head. That's just you trying to go back to default. And I think what we're trying to do is come up with something that would help you all start taking those steps, take you on a journey. So quick little plug, but there's nothing official yet. But like that's where this is all headed. Like, what can we set you up with to make the journey less treacherous or winding as the one we went on to get where we are? Because you learn through going through it, and it's like, if we could prevent you from going through a little less pain than we had to, wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, yes.
Makes it feel a little bit more approachable. So energy is so important. This week, if we could leave you with anything, it's like, look at protecting your energy more. Look at ways you can set up your day or your night to help you show up as the person you want to be, not just resorting to your default mode or your autopilot. Do we want to give them any specific things to do this week?
I think it's just like, in a sense, like we talked about last week, but in this particular instance about your energy is finding that 5 minutes, just get quiet and think about being aware and intentional. But you have to be aware. You have to realize, okay, I'm exhausted. I can't live like this. What small tiny thing can I do to change? Um, I do think that it'd be great to think, what would my best self want to do? What should I be? All the things that we just discussed, but just carve out some time
Yeah.
to be aware and to analyze what exactly you need. Even if it's something as simple as, how many hours of sleep do I really need? And then working backwards to get to the place where you can get that amount of time. So that would be something. What else you got?
No, I like the idea of setting aside, even 5 minutes, 1 minute, if that's all you got to get
Yes.
intentional. You have to start somewhere. And you're going to hear us talk a lot about a particular doctor in the field of psychology, Dr. Nicole LaPera. If anyone is reading her book right now, How to Do the Work, you know who we're talking about. Or if you follow her handle on Instagram, The Holistic Psychologist, this girl drops truth bombs on the daily. Like, if you want to know more about how you're wired and how your brain works and when your identity was really formed, follow her. We are going to be using so much of what she's laid out in her book to help guide you guys, because it's just like, it's gold. Both Kristin and I are reading this and being like, oh my gosh, this is my life. This is like every woman's life. It's so relatable. But she also talks about this idea of, if you can't practice getting intentional in the quiet moments, and that's what we're asking you really to do, don't try and do this when you're all stressed out, because you're not going to know how. You're honestly not going to know how. I couldn't tell you, while you're in a fight with your spouse, just take a moment, take a few deep breaths, and think about who you want to be in that moment. You're not going to do that. You don't have the skills yet. You haven't developed that level of consciousness. But she says, if you can start in those moments of quiet, can you really just tune in? How do I want to show up? And remind yourself throughout the day if you need to. Like, what was the intention you set? Maybe you put a Post-it on your bathroom mirror or something to remind you, this is who I decided I needed to show up energetically as today. And you take a beat here and there throughout the day and check in with that. Is this who I'm showing up as? It
How
doesn't
am I
mean,
doing?
yeah, and I mean, it's not keeping score. It's not keeping score with yourself. It's just reminding yourself, because we have enough reasons to beat ourselves up every day, right? The things we want to be doing that we're not, the shoulds.
Yes, all the shits.
So don't make this another thing that you should be doing. This is a
No.
gift to yourself. This is a gift of being able to tune in. And the more you practice this, the easier it gets, the more it just becomes habitual. Like everything we want to happen in our life, right? We just want it to happen naturally. We don't want to have to think about it. But the reality is, you're going to have to think about it for a little bit until you get there. So
That's how it becomes the habit. That's how it becomes who you are. But
yeah,
it does take time, and we got to give ourselves permission. Again, that word, that permission, and the grace that you're not going to get it right every single time.
no, and it's okay.
And that's okay. That's part of the journey. That was one of the things I had to come to was, we're all very goal oriented when it comes to like I want this now. You like you were talking about, we want
Yeah,
this
check the
now.
box, check the
And
box.
so many times we are so focused on the end goal, or the end, this is what I want to get to, that we do not enjoy the process. And give it, just focusing on the process is so important, because it is so necessary. It is a journey. Like you said, it takes time, but you can celebrate when you get it right. And then when you get it wrong, just be like, ah, okay, there you are. Happened again. It's
Yep,
okay. Bring it back.
yep,
Um,
yep, 100%. It's a practice, and you nailed it. I was like, give yourself
the more you
grace.
get it, yeah,
Give yourself
it's going to
grace.
take time. It's a practice. It's just like learning, like you were talking about, learning to tie your shoes.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you get that overnight?
No, and you probably, got really frustrated in the process.
Mhm,
Honor that as
mhm,
well. You're going to get
mhm.
frustrated with yourself. It's part of the process. But we were watching something with Tom Bilyeu where he talked about, or someone else talked about how in getting to greatness, you have to just at least be willing to try, and you're going to suck for a long time before you're really great.
Yes, there's
So
somebody else's, their
yeah,
tagline is embrace the suck.
embrace the suck. Exactly where I was going. It's like embrace the suck. You are going to suck for a while, and it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. Like enjoy it, because at least you're going somewhere. You're learning something. The whole idea is learn more about you. What makes you tick? Because you probably have not thought about it in a very long time, if at all.
If ever, yeah.
That's the scary reality. Have you even thought about these kinds of things in your life? Maybe you've considered them here and there, but you've never actually dug in. So this is our invitation to you. Be willing to start to dig in, and it doesn't have to be a big thing when you start. Um, Couple plugs. We're doing Thursday Think Tank. So if you're interested in, being with other women going through similar struggles, this is a completely open forum for you to come, potentially be coached, just listen to what other women are going through. Sometimes just listening to other women and hearing their stories is like super inspiring to you, because you're like, yeah, I'm not alone. I'm going through that too.
Exactly.
And you can
Exactly.
connect with other women through it, and us. And like, we'd love to chat with you. So that's going on Thursdays in the evening, 7, 8 o'clock Central. So if you can join us, we'd love to have you. We're probably going to set up another time during the week, maybe a lunchtime thing we've been talking about for people that can't do evenings.
Evening, yeah.
So look out for that. And then I think we've talked about doing a more formal kind of monthly talk within this group that's just for the Meant for More Sisterhood. So we'll take a topic and we'll really dive into it. And we'll set up an event. We'll let you come. You can invite people in. If you want to be on Zoom with us and be able to Q&A with us, we'll probably give you that opportunity. So look out for that as well. We're trying to provide as much value to you as we can. So we're always open to ideas and suggestions from you as well. Like, what are you wanting to hear about? What would be really helpful for you? So I think that's it. Anything else you want to leave
Yeah.
them with, Kristen?
I think that was it. I was just thinking with that last piece that you were mentioning, is that I would encourage you all to join in on that, though, is like, again, with the community piece and the not feeling alone, and not like, okay, I'm not the only person going through this. I know that has been so valuable for me, is just to jump on a Zoom group, or a mastermind or something like that down the line, where it just helps a lot to hear other people's ideas, and okay, that's what I thought too, or wait, I could try that. Maybe that's, if there's something that's just not working for you, or anyway, those are things that I have found very valuable. And so I would encourage everyone to consider that.
I have too. And it's like, I think it's a little bit scary for people to think about coming into a Zoom room with complete strangers. Trust me, we've all been there too. Like, you get to see us and interact with us in this space and in this capacity, but you could actually be in a room with us talking to us just like this. And it's completely safe. It's completely confidential.
Yes. Oh,
Like,
definitely.
it's it is our vision for this group. Like I've told you from the very beginning, we want to know you on a personal level. That's how this work gets done. This is how you start taking those steps. You can sit and observe, and we're not judging that either. If
No,
that's where
no,
you're
yeah.
at, observe, take it in. When you're ready, and you'll know, we can't tell you when you are. When you're ready to really dive in and do the work, the group's here for you. And we're going to have offerings that will support you in going on that journey, in digging in and reconnecting with yourself and what you want. Because we always say, like, create a life you love. That truly is what we want for you. And we know so many of you want that too. And being able to accept the help that's in front of you can be really hard sometimes too. It's really easy to just say, I'm just going to go it alone. You know, it's scary. I don't know if I trust that someone else could help me at this point. You'll know when you're ready. And this group will
Absolutely.
always be open and available for you. So
We're always here.
thanks for reiterating that. Um, it's actually how Kristin and I met. Like we did not
Yeah,
know each other. We did not know each other, living in different states, and we randomly jumped on a call. And now you see what can happen. So I just encourage you, be open to possibility. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's around the corner.
never know. And goodness is on the other side.
Yes. So everyone enjoy their weekend. We will be back next week. If you have any questions, concerns, things you want to discuss, drop them in the comments. We would love to connect with you. See you guys next.
Absolutely. Please let us know. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. Bye, ladies.
Bye.